Alone in a snowstorm, how a millionaire CEO gave up everything for his assistant at 3 a.m., the snow was a furious white beast that howled, swirling through the midnight sky. It consumed everything in its path. The streets lay buried, silent as if the world had gone mute. Then, there was a single dim light. It flickered in a sprawling mansion, illuminating the tall glass windows that hinted at a life of luxury within. But tonight wasn't about extravagance, it was about desperation. Miles away, a woman named Emma was trapped. Inside, James Carter, the millionaire CEO, stared at his phone, his anxiety pressing down like a weight. He'd been waiting for the call. The night had taken a turn. His palms were sweaty, heart hammering. Emma had gone out hours ago, and all he could think about was her safety. He had billions in the bank, but none of it mattered. He could hear the wind scream. It felt personal, threatening. The thought of her lost in that tempest made his breath hitch. What if something terrible happened? The clock ticked ominously, counting down the moments. He grabbed his coat, ready to confront the storm, a decision cracking through his usually steely resolve. But why? Why this sudden urge? Was it just fear? Or was it something deeper, something that connected him to her in a way he couldn't articulate? As if reading thoughts, the wind howled louder, mocking his hesitance. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, a shadow of hope. But it wasn't a call, it was a news alert. Severe weather advisory, snowstorm wreaks havoc on the city. His heart raced. Fumbling with the screen, he scrolled desperately. There was talk of stranded drivers, power outages. But all he cared about was Emma. His assistant. His lifeline. The woman who had become more than just a name on an office door. The tension thickened, twisting around him tighter than his coat. The walls felt as if they were closing in. He had to go. There was no other choice. He was overwhelmed with an emotion he hadn't felt in years: vulnerability. And that vulnerability was pushing him outside, into the storm, into the unknown. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Stepping outside was like stepping into a different world. The snow was relentless, stinging against his skin. Visibility was barely a foot ahead. With each step, he felt a sense of dread but also an inexplicable drive, something beyond mere concern. He thought about Emma, her laugh, her quick mind, the small moments they shared when she would challenge him. He had held those moments close, despite himself. But what if he'd waited too long? What if she needed him and he was here, sheltered in a bubble, while she battled the storm? The thought clawed at his chest. He pushed forward, eyes squinting against the white fury, calling her name into the void. A fading echo. With every step, doubt and determination waged war inside him. Then he saw it. A shadow. Suddenly, hope ignited in his heart, but was it her? The figure was barely discernible. He sprinted, fueled by adrenaline, fear pounding in his ears. Each footfall seemed to scream, what if it was too late? What would happen if he couldn't reach her in time? As he got closer, the twisted shape resolved, revealing a figure slumped against a lamppost. The world around blurred into a frantic whirl, leaving nothing but the haunting image that could change everything. Would it be her? Would this night redefine the boundaries of their relationship? The answer hung in the air, thick and palpable. As the shadow came to life, he felt the cold clench of unease gripping him tightly. Who or what awaited him there? And in that crucial moment, the wind howled back. James fought against the howling wind, but as the figure came into focus, his heart stopped. It was Emma. She was hunched over, shivering, her usual spark dimmed by the harshness of the storm. Relief flooded him, but it was quickly overshadowed by a rising sense of horror. Her face was pale, lips tinged blue. He rushed to her side, urgency kicking in. "Emma!" he shouted, panic gripping his voice. She looked up, her eyes wide, confusion battling fear. He knelt beside her, cradling her face between his cold hands. "What happened? Are you hurt?" I got lost," she stammered, her breath coming out in shaky puffs that mingled with the swirling snow. "The snow, it just came out of nowhere. I thought I'd find my way back, but—" He could feel icy sweat trickling down his back. How could she have ventured out in this? "I've got you. We need to get you warm." He wrapped an arm around her as he helped her to her feet. She swayed, nearly collapsing against him. They were shrouded in white fury, the world around them disappearing. But all he could focus on was Emma. The warmth of her body radiated against the cold, igniting something fierce within him. "Can you walk?" he asked, though he feared the answer. "Not for long," she whispered, leaning heavily on him. He could feel the tremors of her body, the bones rattling against the relentless chill. "Hold on tight," he said, determination surging through him. He half-carried, half-guided her back, the mansion a distant sanctuary obscured in swirling snow. With each step, the wind shrieked warnings, growling behind them as if daring him to falter, then, without warning, there was a loud crack. He froze, the sound reverberating through the empty streets. A tree limb had given way, collapsing dangerously close. The storm was growing violent, threatening more than just separation. "James!" Emma gasped, clutching his arm, her voice filled with alarm. "We can't stop. Just keep moving," he urged, pushing forward. His chest tightened with anxiety, now wasn't the time to hesitate. But the deeper they plunged, the more the world seemed to conspire against them. Suddenly, the ground beneath him gave an ominous shift. They stumbled but kept moving. The frantic pace forced James to maintain focus, but behind him, he felt something unusual. The air felt different, heavy, charged. He glanced over his shoulder, but through the swirling snow, nothing registered. "James, I can't." Emma's voice faded into a shivering whisper. He looked at her, the agony on her face tearing through him. "Hang in there, Emma. Just a little longer." Then, like a thunderclap in the hushed darkness, another sound broke through the wind. A low, rumbling growl. A shiver traveled down his spine, the sensation forcing him to stop. It wasn't just the wind anymore, something else lurked in the storm, something that made his blood run cold. "James." Emma's whisper was thick with fear. "We need to keep going," he said, no longer sure who he was reassuring. The mansion felt so far away, but the feeling of being watched was growing, amplifying the urgency. As they pressed forward, he caught glimpses of shapes moving in the distance, shadows darting in his peripheral vision. Anxiety prickled at the back of his neck. But he couldn't let her see fear. Not now. Then, a chill, deeper than the storm, clawed at his heart. He could sense a presence that shouldn't be there. A low murmur, a dark promise hidden in the winds. It was only a matter of time before whatever it was would reveal itself. What were they truly up against? The storm seemed to reignite as he felt an inexorable pull, and with each step, dread curdled in his stomach. Could they evade the looming danger? Or had the storm conjured something far worse? The night pressed in around them, heavy and suffocating. The wind howled, a beast on the hunt, thrashing against the world they knew. James tightened his grip on Emma, desperate to keep her upright, her warmth a fragile beacon against the dark. "Stay close," he urged, leading her through the chaotic storm. The trees swayed ominously, their bare branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to snag them. Each step was a battle, the snow swallowing their feet, making progress agonizingly slow. "James, do you hear that?" Emma said, her voice trembling as she glanced nervously over her shoulder, her eyes wide with unspoken fear. He paused, straining to listen. The growl had faded into a low hum, but the unsettling feeling hung in the air, a noise that felt alive, breathing with them. It thrummed like a distant heartbeat, sending chills racing down James's spine. "Keep moving," he whispered, wishing to believe if they could run faster, they could escape whatever was lurking in the snow. The mansion loomed ahead, a silhouette against the storm, but shadows danced around them, flitting just beyond visibility. Was it the storm playing tricks on his mind, or were they truly not alone? Suddenly, a piercing shriek cut through the air, halting him in his tracks. It was a sound of anguish, raw and primal, that echoed off the walls of trees and sent a wave of ice-cold terror through him. He turned to Emma, whose face was drained of color, her eyes reflecting sheer panic. "James, we need to go. Please," she urged, almost dragging him forward. The sense of urgency coursing through her sliced through the fog enveloping them that he forced himself to keep moving, each footfall like a drum pounding on his nerves. But the screech, and then silence, hung thick around them, heavy and suffocating. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to protect her, to fight whatever was creeping up behind them. There was again a rustle, followed by a low growl, dragging across the ground like claws on metal. The shadows seemed to swell, gathering strength and intent just out of sight. James swept his gaze around, the panic wrapping around his throat like a snare. "Faster!" he demanded, desperation threading his voice. As they hurtled forward, something flashed in the corner of his eye, dark and menacing. James whipped his head around, but the darkness swallowed it whole, leaving him questioning the safety of the next step. "James! What is happening?" Emma's question snapped him back to her side. "Nothing. Just keep your eyes ahead," he said, his own heart racing faster than his feet. But uncertainty gnawed at him, twisting like a knife as his instincts screamed that whatever lay in the storm was very real and very close. Then, just as they neared the mansion, the growl erupted into a furious roar, and the wind seemed to part like a curtain. The figure emerged from the shadows, huge and snarling, a grotesque silhouette against the snow, a beast formed of nightmares and fury. "Run!" James shouted, and with a surge of adrenaline, they bolted towards the mansion, their sanctuary now seeming like a distant dream, but as the door loomed closer, terror and determination mixed within him. He was about to escape, but the deeper question clawed at the back of his mind: what had they awakened in the storm? The growl was now behind them, echoing like a looming promise, and as they reached the door, he thrust it open, pushing Emma inside. "Stay close," he commanded, slamming the door behind them. They stood panting, the quiet of the mansion contrasting starkly against the raging storm outside. But as the darkness settled, something flickered in the corner of his vision. Shadows moved again. "Did you see that?" Emma gasped, her voice shaking. James felt the walls closing in. "We're not alone." But who or what else was in there with them? A heavy silence enveloped the two, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Emma's breaths came in short, frantic bursts, each one more desperate than the last. The mansion felt alive, as if it were breathing, each creak and whisper a warning. "James, what do we do now?" Emma whispered, glancing around. Shadows lurked in every corner, shifting slightly in the flickering light of the old chandelier above them. He clenched his jaw, trying to ignore the pulse of fear throbbing behind his eyes. "We have to find a way out, or barricade ourselves until the storm passes." He felt the urge to sound calm, even as dread rooted him in place. The growl from outside echoed again, a menacing reminder of the creature that hunted them. "There has to be a way to fortify this place," James urged, scanning the room for anything that could serve as a defense. The walls of the mansion felt oppressive, their dark wood seeming to squeeze tighter with every second spent within. Emma caught a glimpse of a heavy oak table nearby. "That could work. We can push it against the door," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of terror and adrenaline. "Let us do it," James urged, a flicker of hope igniting in the back of his mind. They rushed to the table, the wood slick and cool beneath their hands, muscles straining as they heaved it toward the door. As they pushed it in place, a loud crash from outside made them both jump. The beast was trying to break through. James turned to Emma, his expression fierce. "We'll hold it together. No matter what." "Okay," she whispered, her eyes wide as she braced herself against the table. Suddenly, a loud, shattering sound rang out, glass breaking behind them. Both of them spun around, and in that instant, James felt a jolt of terror shoot through him. Emblazoned across the wall, illuminated by the flickering light, were faces carved in whispers of shadows, all gazing at them with hollow eyes. "Something's wrong, very wrong," Emma whispered, stepping back toward James. "No," he said, forced to think quickly. "We need to find a way to lock this room down. Let's check for windows." As they moved farther into the dimly lit space, the shadows shifted again, creeping, expanding. James' heart raced, each beat mirroring the growing intensity of the presence surrounding them. They found a set of old, rusted double windows but were met with a chilling sight. Black streaks marred the glass, as if invisible fingers had touched them. Emma's voice faded into a grave whisper, her body rigid. Every rational thought screamed to flee, but they were trapped. The mansion felt like a maze, walls shifting, doors that might lead nowhere, and the monsters both inside and outside seemed to watch, waiting. Just then, a faint echo of gnashing teeth came from behind the door. The growling evolved into a raspy voice that chilled James to his core. "I can smell your fear." "Shut up!" he shouted, but it only made the laughter echo louder, filling every corner of the mansion. Emma pressed against him, her eyes darting wildly. "We can't stay here. We have to do something." Panic surged, and he finally spotted an old-fashioned fireplace on the opposite wall. "Over there. We can barricade ourselves behind the mantel. It's our best chance." They raced to it, adrenaline making their bodies feel light, but the noise from behind grew louder, a chaotic symphony of despair. Once at the fireplace, James pulled at the chained logs scattered around it, while Emma pulled at a heavy rug, attempting to make a makeshift barrier. Just as they finished stacking the last of it, the door slammed open with a violent crash. James turned just in time to see a silhouette rush into the room, its eyes glowing with feral rage. "James! Behind you!" Emma screamed. A split second of horror turned the air thick with despair, and James had only one thought: what came next would mean being brave against whatever nightmare emerged from the darkness. But was he truly prepared to face it? James spun around, adrenaline pumping through his veins like wildfire. The shadow loomed larger, muscles rippling beneath matted fur, eyes glowing with a predatory hunger. It was no longer just a beast, it was a nightmare made flesh. "Run!" he shouted, instinct kicking in. He grabbed Emma's arm, urging her toward the fireplace. They stumbled back behind their makeshift barricade, hearts racing as the growling crescendoed into a terrifying roar. The creature paused, its glowing eyes locked onto them, hungry and calculating. It circled, a predator sizing up its prey. James could feel Emma's breath quicken beside him, her fear palpable in the air. "Do you think it's trying to figure us out?" she asked, her voice shaking, barely above a whisper. "It's playing with us," James said, trying to muster confidence despite the desperate knot in his stomach. "We need to do something now." He scanned the room for anything that could help them fight back or at least distract their attacker. The old-fashioned decor offered little in terms of weapons. A set of ornate silver candlesticks caught his eye, glinting menacingly in the low light. "Those." He pointed, heart thrumming. "We can use them as weapons." Emma nodded, her fear morphing into a flicker of determination. They silently coordinated, each grabbing a candlestick, holding them high like knights preparing for battle. The creature lunged suddenly, slamming its massive body against the barricade. The stack of logs and rug shifted ominously, threatening to topple. James felt fear clawing at his throat, threatening to choke him. "Keep it together," he urged himself. "We can do this." The beast snarled, a low rumble that seemed to resonate through the very walls of the mansion. Emma stared, her grip on the candlestick tightening as the creature's fur bristled, and its eyes flared brighter. It was growing impatient. "James, it's going to break through. What do we do?" "On three, we hit it," he said, voice steadier than he felt. 1-2, a shattering crash echoed as the creature broke through the remaining barrier, sending logs flying in every direction. James swung his candlestick with all his strength. "Get back!" he shouted, as the candlestick connected with the beast's side. It stumbled, howling in pain, but quickly regained its footing, rage electrifying the air. Emma's candlestick met air, missing its target. "James!" He rushed to her side, adrenaline fueling his determination. "We can't let it overpower us. We need to keep it at bay." With renewed ferocity, they struck out at the beast, swinging wildly, desperate to protect each other. The creature snapped at them, gnashing its teeth dangerously close. With each growl and roar, James felt the walls closing in. The mansion felt like it was alive, its very essence feeding off their fear. Then, without warning, the creature lunged again, but this time it was aiming at Emma. Panic surged through him, thick and suffocating. "Emma, move!" He threw himself in front of her just in time. Everything happened in a blur. The beast's claws grazed his arm, sharp like daggers. Pain shot through him, and he staggered back. Emma screamed, a sound of pure terror that made his chest ache. "Stay back!" he shouted, forcing himself to stand between her and the horror before them, his heart pounding as he felt warmth trickle down his arm. The creature paused, sensing the shift in the balance of power. Its haunting eyes darted between them, calculating. "You cannot protect her," it hissed, voice dark like midnight. "No one can save you now." With desperation mounting, James' resolve strengthened. "We'll see about that," he growled, adrenaline turning to anger, channeling every ounce of pain into purpose, but as they tightened their grip on their weapons, the reality of their situation struck like a thunderbolt. What was lurking outside wasn't the only horror they had to face. A loud banging erupted from the backroom, a solid thump that shook the entire mansion. The noise was different, almost human. Emma's voice trembled again, filled with dread, his heartbeat quickened. "What now?" The banging continued, insistent and terrifying. He shared a glance with Emma, and in that moment, they both understood, the true terror might not be the creature before them, but what lay beyond the barricaded door waiting to break free. The foreboding murmurs in the walls only deepened the uncertainty. Just as James prepared to confront the horrors ahead, he realized he might have to make a choice that could change everything. Could they face the creature and whatever else awaited? "Are you ready?" he asked, gripping the candlestick tighter, resolve surging. But before Emma could respond, the door shook with a new intensity, and a chilling whisper crept through the cracks. Someone or something else was coming. What awaited them next? As the ominous banging escalated, James felt time stretch, every second palpable and heavy with dread. Emma's breath hitched beside him, and the air was thick with fear. He clenched the candlestick tighter, heart pounding like a drum against his ribcage. "What do we do?" she stammered, her voice wavering. He glanced at the beast, a creature caught between fury and curiosity, then back to the door shaking with frantic desperation. "We can't stay here. We have to face it all." The creature's glowing eyes flicked to the sound, frustration sparking within them. It seemed to sense their uncertainty, and that only fueled its rage. James took a step back, his instincts screaming for him to retreat. "Stay close to me," he said, readying himself for whatever came next. Even though he could barely keep himself steady, he shot a comforting look at Emma. Another crash erupted, and this time, the door buckled, a splintering sound that echoed through the room. The whispers intensified, swirling around them like cold smoke. The words distorted, garbled yet laced with a strange allure that twisted at James' insides. "Please help us," a voice called, high and desperate, his gut clenched. They were no longer just facing a beast. It was as if the depths of the mansion itself were unleashing something darker, something human that had been imprisoned and was now begging for release. James gritted his teeth, struggling with an unseen force that tangled with his thoughts. He sensed Emma's hesitation. She was just as frightened as he was. "Emma," he said, his voice firm, "we can't listen to it." "But what if? Don't even think about it." His voice was raw, laced with urgency. He could feel the shadows around them tightening like a noose. The banging morphed into a jagged rhythm, striking against the door like the heartbeat of something ancient and malevolent. James caught a glimpse of a dark outline behind the thick wood, a shape moving, desperate and flailing. "Help!" it echoed again, trembling through the air, seductive and chilling, and then, suddenly, the noise stopped. An unsettling silence enveloped the mansion. The beast growled, low and threatening, its focus shifting between James, Emma, and the door. The air was thick with tension, and James's grip on the candlestick felt like a lifeline. "What are you waiting for?" Emma cried out, passion surfacing in her fear. "It's right there." He could see how the shadows twisted, shifting at the edges of his vision. "No, we're not opening that door. Not now." But as if they were wedged between two worlds, something beyond the door whispered, smooth and caressing. "You can let it out. Help it set it free. It's your only chance." His heart raced. The dual voices, threat and plea, wrapped around him in a claustrophobic embrace. He swallowed hard. The urge to flee battled with an inexplicable desire to understand the voices, to help whatever lay behind that door. "James, we might have to choose now." Emma's voice snapped him back to the present, tense and urgent. The creature lunged forward, teeth bared, aiming for James. He swung the candlestick, crashing it against its snout. The beast howled, staggering back. But the real danger was still there, waiting, struggling for release behind the door. With breaths coming heavier and the shadows thickening, he faced Emma. "This isn't just about surviving anymore. What if we have to endure it to find out what's really going on here?" He heard the thump again, and this time he felt it in his bones. The thing beyond the door knocked again, more a plea than a threat. Or was it a distraction? "I can't do this without you." James squeezed her hand, locking eyes. "You have to trust me." But before they could make a decision, the door burst open with a splintering crack, sending shards flying into the dim light. A dark figure stumbled out, face hidden in the shadows, giving way to chaos, and as the darkness rolled forward, a spine-tingling realization washed over him. Whatever he had to choose between was only just beginning to unfold. As the room blurred into utter madness, a terrifying thought struck James. What if the monster was not outside, but had been within them all along? And with that harrowing question lingering in the air, the figure took a step closer, its intentions shrouded in darkness. What emerged from the shadows could change everything, or end it all. The figure lurched forward, a wave of darkness spilling from its form like creeping mist. James squinted, heart thundering, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The shadows twisted, revealing fleeting glimpses of twisted features, and all he could feel was an overpowering sense of dread. "Emma!" he shouted, pulling her closer as the air thickened around them. "Stay behind me." The creature shrieked, a sound that clawed at the very essence of his being. It seemed to grasp the desperation in their eyes, its own fury melting into something like agony. "Help me!" it gasped, voice dampened but unmistakably human, yet alien. I need to be free." If the mansion was a trap, this figure was its final lifeline, its embodiment of pain. But whose pain? James found himself entranced, caught in a web of confusion and compassion. Emma gripped his arm, nails digging in, grounding him. "James, we can't trust it." Her voice trembled, urgency bubbling just below the surface. "I know," he replied, voice strained. "But what if it's telling the truth? What if we have to let it out?" Through the frenzy of sounds, the cracking wood, the beast's growling, the whispers swirling around them, the question loomed large. The darkness flickered, and for a moment, James thought he recognized a faint hint of humanity in those eyes. Then the creature lunged again. James reacted instinctively, swinging the candlestick, yet it passed right through the shadow, as if it were made of smoke. The force of its movement made him stumble backward. What the hell was it? Get back! He yelled, but the shadow pressed in closer, weaving tendrils around him. He felt the cold seeping into his bones, paralyzing him, claiming his breath. In that split second, a memory surged back: his childhood, the face of a boy lost to darkness, lost to pain. "I can help you," he shouted, despite the hollow terror that clawed at his throat. "Then set me free," the creature whispered, its voice an alluring melody and bitter poison all at once. It was an offer, but what did it mean? Was he really talking to a lost soul, or was this just an extension of a fear that had taken on shape? The beast in the corner seemed to sense the shift, growing more agitated, more desperate to defend its territory. "No, you cannot let it out," it roared, its voice rippling through the air. James's mind raced. The monster was terrified, protecting whatever was lurking in that shadow. The conflict raged within him. Could he really risk unleashing whatever lay within? "James, think!" Emma cried, breathless. "What if it's a trap? What if we become a part of the nightmare?" The tension in the air thickened, a charged silence wrapping around them, filled with doubt. James felt a fracture in the moment, possibility hung in the balance. "I have to try," he said, firm in his resolve. Regardless of the danger that lingered, the need to uncover the truth bore heavily upon him. He took a cautious step toward the thing, and its eyes widened, glimmering with something akin to hope. "Trust," it breathed softly, almost pleading. But could he? Just behind the fear and promise, a darker thought pushed its way to the surface. What if, in trying to help, he unleashed something that couldn't be contained? Before he could act, the shadows pulsed, swirling around them as Emma shouted, "James, don't!" But it was too late. A wave of darkness surged forth, engulfing him. As the world spiraled into chaos and shadows swept away his senses, another voice erupted from the depths of his mind, chilling and seductive, "Free me, and I'll show you the truth." In that moment of decision, he felt the weight of his choice. But the darkness swirled faster. He couldn't see, couldn't think. What awaited him in the depths of that shadow? Whatever it was could either bind them in eternal suffering or lead them to a revelation waiting just beyond the veil of fear. And at the heart of the storm, behind the curtain of despair, lay the answer. What truth could break them or set them free? James felt a jolt, as if the ground beneath him had opened. The blackness enveloped him, thick and suffocating. Panic surged through his veins. He clawed at the air, gasping for a breath that wouldn't come, awareness slipping away like sand through his fingers. A flicker of light pierced the darkness, vivid and unyielding. Shapes danced on the periphery of his vision, teasing him, luring him deeper. With every pulse of the shadows, the sense of dread morphed into confusion. He was no longer sure where he ended and the darkness began. "James!" Emma's voice, distant yet clear, echoed through the fog of chaos. It grounded him for a moment, like a lifeline thrown into a turbulent sea. But another voice whispered, smoother and more enticing. "Let go, just let go." He shook his head, fighting against the pull, but the shadows felt so inviting. Secrets wrapped in the shroud of comfort nudged at his mind. He had wanted the truth, hadn't he? Wasn't that what drove him to this moment? The truth beckoned like a distant star, urging him to step closer. "Don't trust it," Emma cried, her voice a frantic whisper. It pierced through the seductive allure, snapping him back. Forcing his eyes wide open, he strained to seek out Emma, to find a glimpse of her in this murky abyss. Then the shadows shifted, coalescing into the sickening shape of the creature. It leaned closer, eyes swirling like dark pools. "I am a part of you and you of me," it murmured. "Set me free, and I will reveal everything." That phrase struck a chord deep within him. Blood thumping in his ears, he thought of the boy from his childhood, trapped in his own darkness. He remembered the weight of despair, the burden of feeling alone amidst chaos. Was this creature truly a reflection of that pain, or a trap, a bait to ensnare him? "James!" Emma's shout broke through the murky dreams. You have to fight it. You can't break, you can't become like it. With that, a jolt of resolve ignited in him. He willed his body to move even as the darkness coiled tighter, squeezing the breath from his lungs. What truth? He bellowed, voice strained but powerful. What are you hiding? The creature grinned, a horrific contortion of joy and despair alike. The truth will devour you. But you must face it. I can guide you or consume you. Your choice. James's heart raced. He could feel the weight of his decision looming like a guillotine. The choice would either bind him to this nightmare or grant him the clarity he desperately sought. As the swirling shadows pressed in, he remembered Emma's grip, her fear tangling around them like the gloom. I won't let fear decide for me. He shouted defiantly, propelling himself against the darkness. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted violently, urging him to confront the beast. The shadows shrieked, twisting and contorting, clawing at him as he wavered between action and despair. I'll free you. He screamed, but more resolutely, I'll free us. With every ounce of strength, he broke free, reaching deep within for a spark of light, the dwindling hope that clung in the corners of his heart. The creature recoiled, the darkness shattering for a brief heartbeat, revealing a glimpse of a brighter world, but then, the tendrils lashed out, grabbing hold of him, pulling him back into the depths. No. He gasped. I won't be lost. Yet, as the shadows curled around him, he felt a tear in his own resolve. What if he was wrong? What if freeing the creature meant binding himself to a fate worse than death? The clash of shadow and light raged around him, and in the chaos, a whisper echoed, gentle yet clamoring for attention. You are the key, James. Find the truth inside yourself. As he struggled, he began to remember pieces of his life, moments buried deep, masked by fear and darkness. Those memories could either save him or damn him. Could he ever surface from the depths, or was he too far gone? With adrenaline surging, he knew he had to decide, and fast, for each second brought him closer to being consumed by shadows he might not escape. What awaited him on the other side of his choice could change everything. Or lead them all to ruin. The last echoes of his defiant shout hung in the air, thickening the darkness around him. James could feel the weight of the creature pressing down, its breath like icy smoke against his skin. It coiled tighter, the shadows intertwining, choking the light. Each heartbeat chopped through the silence, a drumroll to the unknown that awaited. In that moment, he realized surrender would mean death, death to hope, death to everything his life had been. The memories flooding back were like flickering lights in the night, warm laughter at the park, Emma's smile under the stars, the thrill of riding bikes down gravel paths. They felt like lifelines, but they also washed over him like a fleeting whisper of a life he might never reclaim. The urge to submit, the creature's voice shared sweetened agony. Face the truth, James. What is it that torments you? His mind reeled. Was it fear of failure? Fear of becoming someone he didn't recognize? The questions clawed at him. Sliding closer to the brink, he concentrated, grasping for the truth beneath the layers of anguish. Emma's terrified face surfaced just as he felt the creature's malevolence surge. It's you. He yelled, you're the one feeding off my doubt. I won't let you control me. With every word, a pulse of defiance ignited within him. The creature's eyes pooled with darkness but shimmered with something else, fury. Inspiration. He couldn't back down. The shadows shrieked and twisted violently around him, blurring the lines between reality and unreality. It felt like being caught in a storm, winds howling, trying to uproot everything he believed. But he stood firm, anchoring himself with shouted memories. Emma. We're stronger together. The shadows recoiled as if physically struck. For a moment, James felt a crack in the murky fabric around him, a dim light breaking through. But it faltered, and the creature lunged forward, its grip vice-like around his throat. Face what you fear. It snarled. Face the boy you abandoned, the darkness you let grow. The sharpness of the accusation hit harder than expected. Heart racing, James clawed for clarity. He was not just fighting for himself. He was fighting for Emma, for the life they both deserved beyond the tangled cords of despair. Emma, Emma. His voice climbed in desperation, drowning out the creature's malevolence. Help me. We'll fight it together. And there she was, flickering just beyond the horizon of shadows. The light in her eyes pierced through the chaos, wrapping around him with warmth. James. She screamed. Trust yourself. You are not alone. The bonds of fear shrieked in protest, but then something shifted. Memory flooded back his childhood fears, the loss, the dark thoughts he had buried under layers of success and bravado. He was tired of hiding, tired of running. It was time to confront the truth. The truth that had haunted him for years. He wasn't just afraid of failing. He was terrified of the darkness that lay within, the shadows he feared he might mirror. No more, he gasped, forcing the creature to meet his gaze. You will not consume me. I will become a part of the light. Suddenly, James thrust out his hand, a spark igniting from within as a blinding light exploded outward. Energy poured through him, spilling into the darkness, igniting every inch. The shadows screamed, recoiling as his inner light surged forth, brightening the abyss he fought so hard to escape, but before he could take a breath, the creature writhed and lunged, its form twisting in violent fury. You think you can banish me? You're wrong. You cannot escape your own darkness. The words, laden with threat, echoed louder than the light surrounding him. The reality behind her last promise hung heavy. Could this burst of illumination truly be enough to fend off the lurking shadows? As the world spun, James felt the light begin to waver, the struggle between radiance and shadow subsuming his very essence. Could he hold on to this hope long enough to push through? But then, the shadows whispered, weaving in and out of his thoughts, taunting him with memories of past failures. Each reminder landed hard, like blows from a fist. You'll fall back, James. You'll always be trapped in the darkness. His heart pounded, suddenly pumping cold, heavy doubt. Could he truly fight against the torrent surrounding him? As the creature lunged again, a new sense of urgency struck. Time was slipping away, and with it any chance at freedom. What if the truth he was fighting for was a lie? Would his desperate yearning for light shatter under the weight of failing once more? The pulse of darkness tightened, and James realized it wasn't just about freeing himself. It was a battle against his own nature. Thus, the true fight began, and the question loomed larger: could he ever truly conquer the shadows within? The moment was now or never. The darkness roared with a ferocity that threatened to swallow James whole, but amidst it all, a flicker of light pulsed within him, an unexpected spark born from defiance and the steadfast bond with Emma. I want to let this shadow define me. He shouted, casting the sentiments of despair aside. I will embrace the light. With each ounce of resolve, he pushed against the encroaching darkness. Emma's voice surged around him, a steady anchor in the tempest. James. You have to believe. We're stronger together. The echo of her faith cut through the haze, igniting a fire within. In that instant, the very fabric of reality around him began to shift. Light, radiant and potent, reached out from his soul, illuminating the surrounding shadows that craved despair. He felt the warmth spread, powerful and electric, as if the universe itself was rallying alongside him. You cannot control me. He roared at the whirling shadow, unwavering and resolute. The creature shrieked, its form convulsing, the darkness swirling in fury. You are nothing but whispers in the night. You will always return to me. It screeched, and for a moment, doubt crept in once again. Was it telling the truth? Would he really succumb to the darkness? But then he felt Emma's hand grasp his, grounding him, filling him with strength. I want to let you take me, he yelled, his voice clearer, filled with the force of belief. Together we can break this cycle. They stood united, two figures against an insurmountable wave, a unity that no shadow could penetrate. As if sensing the sudden shift in momentum, the creature howled in rage, each reverberation of its voice shaking the very core of the mansion. Fools! You think mere light can banish me? I am part of you. But James could feel it now. The shadows only fed off fear and doubt. No, you're not. You're a reflection of my past, but I refuse to let you dictate my future. And in that moment of clarity, he lifted his arm, channeling all the light he had into a single surge of determination. With a blinding flash, he sent that brilliance cascading forth, light infusing every shadowed corner of the room, illuminating the darkness, dispelling it. "What are you doing?" Emma gasped, stepping back in awe. "Facing my truth." With an eruption that felt like an escape from chains long unbound, the shadows recoiled. "I am more than my fears." He hurled the burst of light toward the dark figure, expanding it until it encompassed everything, forcing every unsettling whisper to silence, every vicious intent to dissolve. The beast roared one final cry, but this time, it was a woeful sound, a realization that it could not hold him any longer. The dark silhouette shimmered, luminescence bleeding through it, disintegrating the enormity of despair that had clung onto him for too long. A warm pressure enveloped him, expanding until it grasped Emma too, binding them both in an embrace of light. With a final flash, the shadows whirled, twisting helplessly until they vanished entirely, leaving behind a suffocating silence. James and Emma stood, panting, awash in the afterglow of what had just transpired. Outside, the snowstorm calmed, the winds receded, and a slow stillness blanketed the night. The mansion felt different now. It was quiet, no longer watching, no longer a vault of nightmares. Did we do it?" Emma whispered, disbelief gleaming in her eyes. James nodded, breathless with relief and a profound sense of victory. "We did. We faced our fears. And we're free." He could feel the weight lift off his shoulders. He was no longer burdened by the shadow of his past. He turned to Emma, his heart racing not with fear now, but with something electrifying. "Emma, I realize now how important you are to me. More than I ever acknowledged." Her eyes widened in surprise, and he took a tentative step forward. "You've always been more than just my assistant. You've been my anchor, my source of strength. I don't want to be without you." A smile broke across her face, and the warmth of their connection washed over both of them. "I feel the same way," she admitted softly. Then, finally, with the storm behind them and the promise of a new beginning ahead, James leaned in, their foreheads touching for a moment before he pressed his lips softly to hers. It was a kiss filled with everything they had faced together, a pledge, a fight against the darkness, tinged with hope for the future. As they pulled apart, hand in hand, they stepped back into the world beyond the mansion, facing the falling snow, a vast expanse of shimmering white. Together, they breathed in the peace of night, unshackled from fear, and stronger than ever. This was a moment to build upon, a foundation to grow their lives together, away from shadows and locked doors. In the melting snow and the clearing sky, they found their way forward, ready to embrace whatever came next. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support our channel. Only true fans understand the importance of these actions.